G'day mate, 40 here. So I love little explanations, like little levers, little ways to unlock life. And I think one lever for unlocking life is to realize that beyond just survival, almost everything we do after that is to feel important. So we cheer on the Dallas Cowboys because the more unhappy we are, the more desperate we are to rid ourselves of an unwanted self and to dissolve ourselves into some epic, winning, cool organization. So I think that's what drives a lot of converts, such as myself. When I was in my early 20s, I was not thrilled with myself, and I wanted very much to kind of get rid of an unwanted self and to dissolve myself into a much superior corporate entity of Judaism. And so it is, I think, with all the talk right now about civil war and the apocalypse, meaning the end of the world, the end of life, right? There's tremendous vanity behind this thinking, because if the world's coming to an end, right, then there's nothing more serious, right? If America is heading into a civil war, right, there's no topic that is more important to talk about. So you are at the center of what's really going on. The world's coming to an end. You're part of the final generation, right? You're super duper important. So we all, like, I'm doing this live stream in part because I want to feel more important than I currently am, than I would be without doing this live stream. So it doesn't make you bad to want to feel more important. It's just kind of amusing how motivated we all are to feel more important than we are, and at the same time, how much contempt and disgust we have for many other ways that people act to try to feel more important. So if someone volunteers, right, does good things to feel more important, creates wonderful things to improve the quality of our lives, right, to feel more important, if someone starts a business and employs people and conducts business in a legal and ethical way, then I would hope that we would admire them, right? But when people do things to feel more important that are antisocial and degrade the quality of our lives, then we naturally have contempt. So I think that hyping civil war, like Dennis Prager does, he's been saying for over 2 decades that America is in a non-shooting civil war. And I think that is poison for the soul. To the extent that people take that seriously, it will make them feel less safe. It will lead them to put up more barriers against other people with the opposing politics. It will make you less effective in life, less happy, less able to relate to people with contrary politics to your own, less likely to get along with neighbors and co-workers. So to me, that kind of thinking that could it happen here? It's already happening here, right? I think that's absolute poison. So the phrase "could it happen here?" that is generally primarily taken to refer to Nazi Germany. So saying that America's already turning into Nazi Germany, I think is hyperbolic. I think it's histrionic. I think it's extreme. None of the evidence that Dennis Prager puts forward to argue for why we're becoming more like Nazi Germany stands up, because none of the points that he makes in service of his argument are unique to Nazi Germany, right? They're just things that dozens, if not hundreds, of nations and governments have done, such as more government control over business or restrictions on speech. Right? None of those things are peculiar or particular to Nazi Germany. So it'd be hard to find a happier man than Dennis Prager. So I don't think he is coming to his apocalyptic Civil War point of view from a state of unhappiness, but it is pretty much essential to be a syndicated right-wing talk show host. I don't know syndicated left-wing talk show hosts, so I don't know the dynamics of the left as well as I know the dynamics of the right, but the essence of being successful right-wing talk show host and pundit is to emphasize that your listeners are victims and you are the vehicle by which they can become empowered, that you're going to take on all the institutions that are holding them back. So I notice a lot of older people talk about the apocalypse, or the end of American Jewish literature, or the end of this literature, or the end of this type of poetry, or the end of this type of art, or the end of this cultural moment, right? And I notice a lot of older intellectuals feel like this or that cultural moment is dying with them, which again enhances their vanity, enhances their sense of importance. So there got to be healthier ways to enhance your feeling of importance than making false proclamations about the end of this or that civilization. I was at Sierra Community College, I think, in the fall of 1985, and I first encountered people who seriously argued that planet Earth would be better off without human beings. So there's a whole philosophical movement behind saying that the world would be better off without people because we're just destroying the planet, and so birds and trees and animals, right, they'd be better off without us. And there's this one South African philosopher who argues that the sum total of most people's lives is more pain than pleasure. So that's not my experience. I'm sure it is the experience of some people, but I don't think it's the experience of most people. So I think the core of this kind of anti-humanist philosophy that the planet would be better off without us is someone who's just deeply unhappy. So I do notice this with a lot of people who are in love with the idea of the apocalypse, right? In love with the idea of civil war, is a deep unhappiness or an above average need for excitement, right? The apocalypse and civil war certainly be very exciting. And to have this above average need for importance, vanity, and excitement, reflects a certain inner emptiness at your core, which reflects a lack of connection to other people. So the foundation for my political philosophy, for my religious views, for my psychological views, for my social and cultural and economic views is love, right? Like your life should revolve around people that you love, family that you love, extended family that you love. Your nation should be an extended family, right? Your community, your friends, your culture, your way of life, right? You should have all these things that you love. Yeah, suicidal people want the world to end, says Claire Core, or just people who are just lacking in love. Like I think a healthy politics and healthy economics begins with love. So I don't think people are here to serve the GNP. I don't think GNP numbers, the most important thing. We're not here to serve the Constitution. Like the Constitution and whatever economic and political and cultural systems that we adopt, or religious systems, right, should enhance our ability to love one another, love our friends, our family, create a community that we adore, and to then protect it against any outgroup that seeks to destroy us. And so there's a whole transhumanist movement of which Elon Musk is part, who think that, we're developing computers right now. Computers can outcompete humans playing chess, and computers are getting smarter and smarter than people, and we're going to transcend humanity because computers are so much smarter than us, and therefore they're more economically efficient. And so this idea that economics or some abstract notion is the primary value for a human being. People who think the ruling classes are mad, even stupid, are more likely to be mentally ill than those who think that the ruling classes deserve to rule. Yeah, so I got to admit, I inherited from my father a tendency to regard the outside world as the enemy to be debunked. So this is a characteristic of many self-made men and unhappy people. The outside world is the enemy to be debunked. There are people who are now using ChatGPT to me. Sure, a lot of people who rail against the elite are either mentally ill or have some severe personal issues. Yeah, what about the people who are in love with the apocalypse, or in love with civil war, or in love with saying we're turning into Nazi Germany? That government lockdowns were, the greatest mistake that humanity has ever made. So I think a healthy politics, a healthy economics is just, based on if you love people, And if you love people, you want to protect them. And unhealthy is just wanting everything to be burned up. They revel in the idea of our society falling apart because they're falling apart inside. Or they revel in whatever attention that they can claim. So in part, this is an attention economy, right? We're all competing for attention. And so saying that the world's coming to an end, we're in a civil war, we're turning into Nazi Germany, all right, that is incredibly compelling to many people because it's exciting. So most people have fairly humdrum jobs, and I think many people do lack a sense of excitement in their life, which I would expect comes primarily from a lack of normal human connections. Like a normal person should be able to get all the excitement they need from their children, from their spouse, from their friends, from their family and extended family. And on top of that, if they're particularly intelligent, from their hobbies, their intellectual, cultural, religious, spiritual pursuits, right? That should be all the excitement that you need. And if you need much more than that, there's probably something wrong. Do you think belief in God could cure most forms of mental illness? No, I don't. I think belief in God definitely helps many people. And what it should do normally is that it connects you to concrete community. So anything that connects you to concrete community that is not antisocial, that is not catastrophizing, that is not all about civil war or the apocalypse. But if you're connected to decent people, and so if you believe in God, you have a particular belief in a particular pathway to God, that should connect you to real people, such as real Christians, real Jews, real Muslims, or I'm not so familiar with other forms of religion outside of that. And then it's through those connections to people that you become sane. Right? If you're disconnected from people, no matter what you believe, it's very hard to stay sane. I'm primarily drawing on my own personal experience. I have been incredibly disconnected from others, and then I get really weird. There's a drag queen, therefore the lights are going to go out. So I get weird when I get isolated, all right? I remember when I was isolated with chronic fatigue syndrome, I got these boxer shorts with hearts on them, red hearts on white. And I would just wear these boxer shorts without anything on top of them. I just wore my boxer shorts as shorts on long walks because I just really dug these boxer shorts. I mean, it was weird. And people, noticed how weird I was. On the other hand, I've had the pleasure at various times in my childhood where I get, unofficially adopted into a family, and then my weirdness would diminish. I just had less need to engage in bizarre attention seeking. So when I moved to the United States and I started 6th grade in the United States, I engaged in a lot of really bizarre attention seeking because I didn't yet have close friends. I spent my first 3 months in the United States in the Pacific Union College library just reading books and back issues of Time, Life, and Newsweek magazine, and then it took me a while to make friends at school. And because I didn't really have friends, I would eat insects, I would make very rude noises, I would tease people unmercifully, I was just hyperactive, hyper attention seeking. All these people were saying I was insecure. But when I'm connected with friends, not nearly so insecure. Where do I see myself in 20 years? Great question. My dad was pretty lucid, right up to the end. He died at age 90. My mother died, I think, at about age 40 of cancer. So my older brother and sister in excellent health. So I would like to see myself continuing along the path that I'm on. So, I'd love the privilege of being mentally sharp and being able to make a contribution, up to my 90s, and to be in pretty good physical health. So I'm 56, I have no aches and pains, which really helps one have a positive attitude on life. Everything in my body works, my legs, my calves, my shoulders, everything works great. I was walking for over 3 hours on the Santa Monica Venice beach yesterday, nothing hurts now. Just did a couple of pull-ups. I'm going to do some more pull-ups. Nothing hurts. So feeling free and easy in my body really helps to have a more calm approach to thinking. There's not nearly as desperate a need to kind of transcend the reality of your own aches and pains and destruction that's going on inside of your just inability to do the ordinary tasks of life. Thoughts on the Instagram selfie scandal at Auschwitz? No, but people want to feel important, and people want, one way that we do that is by live streaming and posting on social media. And so if you're connected to other people, I think you'd be less likely to post inappropriate selfies from Auschwitz. That's my history. When I'm wired into a community and friends, I'm less likely to act in an antisocial way. One thing you notice about serial killers is they're almost all loners. Like if you got friends, you're not nearly as likely to go out and do horrible things. There's like less desperation. I don't know about you, but when I'm in a desperate place, I'm not a very nice person. So if I'm desperately late or had desperate financial troubles or desperate physical troubles, I don't think so clearly. But I think it's a useful road in to understand politics and philosophy is this someone's desperate attempt for feeling important and attention seeking? And if the war's coming to an end or in civil war, or you're proclaiming that humanity is a cancer on the earth and it'd be better if all people just disappeared, right? That's like coming from a place of unhappiness. And if you're against capitalism and technology, right, you need a substantial amount of capitalism and technology for the planet to be able to sustain 8 billion people. And if you're against these things, then you want billions of people dead. And I can't imagine that a happy, normal person who gets along with friends and family and community really wants billions of people dead. Like, I've been reading about Mein Kampf, and it was appealing to people who wanted an apocalypse, right? People who wanted rivers of blood. And I don't think the normal human being who loves his kids, has friends, yearns for rivers of blood. To be continued.